Is it a new piece?
No, it's really, really old. There is a plague that has infiltrated our communities, and I'm convinced that its statistics are more horrific than AIDS and more debilitating than any addiction. This malady is traumatizing and tormenting our people, my family, my child. This sickness is painful. It's the kind of pain that morphine can't numb, and in spite of a societal anesthetic and deadening, this pandemic seems to have no cure. We have a better chance of curing cancer than healing the deadbeatedness of a man. Reprobate hearts don't beat, they are emotionless to the hearts that beat through them, and though deaf ears can still hear muted sounds, the deafness of a man that ignores the cries of his child, a man that is absent from his biological rights can't, won't, refuses to hear the sounds of this being that he created. Let's be clear. Not every man suffers from this pathology, and not every father is a carrier of this contagion. However, we are all affected, if not infected, by those who choose to annihilate our communities with their blatant disregard for the well-being or psychological and emotional health of our children. And it seems as if every time a single mother writes about a deadbeat father, she shows up in the image of a woman scorned, a mad woman whose man has moved on. But this isn't about him as my man, because that ship, like the Titanic, has sailed. Yes, I'm angry. I'm angry because my child wants a father, and not just any father, he wants him. Even as a child, he recognizes the synchronized cadences of their heart. As a child, he sees the value in connecting with the source that gave him life, even if the source finds no value in sowing into his own posterity. And so the boy is ready and willing and ready to teach the man to be a father, to be his father, and yes, to let the boy be a father to the man. The progeny is offering the predecessor a chance to live life as a rebirth, to unring a bell that was rung wrong, reverse any generational curses, and establish a legacy that will live throughout the ages. And I, as the mother, am forced to stand by this allegorical bedside and watch my child fight for his life, wait for packages in the mail as if his life depended on it, believe every promise, hide every disappointment, and believe the next promise again in hopes that this time, this promise, this tidbit of hope will not fail him. And yet, it fails him. It fails him. And just like the elder man must have been taught by a broken and heartless man boy, my boy man tucks away the rejection. And God, I pray my son doesn't do what his father is doing and pass this genetic disability on to his own children. You see, I want my son to look in the mirror and see sanctification in his reflection, and not the abandonment and rejection he sees when he searches for a three-dimensional reflection in the person of a man that reflects his own inadequacies, insecurities, and disabilities, because that's all he can see in his own depreciated and obscured self-reflection. And so I teach my son faith, but I can't teach him how to pray like a man. I can't teach him how to cover and carry his family spiritually, because God didn't create me to be the head. So how can I, as the helpmeet, teach a child who will one day be the head how to be the head when there is no head in his family or his home? And I teach him how to ride a bike, and I do it just like my daddy did. When he falls off, I say, get back up, brush yourself off, and get back on that bike. But it's not the same. It's not the same because I'm mommy. I'm mommy wanting to be soft and gentle. I want to put a Band-Aid on it. I want to hold him and protect him and shelter him from the next fall. But instead, I have to put my baby back on that bike, knowing all along that the bike riding lesson isn't really about the bike at all. It's about life. And so I can't be daddy teaching his sons the lessons of life. Instead, I'm mommy. I'm mommy trying to be hard and soft at the same time. And why wouldn't our men be confused about their roles in society when mommies are now daddies and daddies want to be mommies? And that's a different poem. I just want my son to be a confident man and not a makeshift or shade tree man that his mother pieced together because his natural example of a man chose to sit this one out. And so I teach him how to tie a tie and how to talk to girls, and he tells me about his first crush, and it robs him of a rite of passage as a young man, as I'm sure his father must have been robbed. Surely he never experienced the pride of a man, his father, watching him dress for a milestone event, and maybe a man never told him how to talk to girls so that when he was a man, he'd know how to treat a woman. And if by chance he sat and watched the maltreatment of his own mother and erroneously thinks he turned out okay, I rebuke the notion that my son will be a part of that inheritance. So I can be all things to my son and I can provide his every need, but I'm still not man enough for what he needs. There's no gender reassignment to a such an incurable condition. And so I walk through fire and I scale tall buildings and I would walk on water if I had to, but I cannot make a man. I can't convince an incorrigible man to be a father any more than I can show an expectant and optimistic boy how to be a man. Even on my worst days, well, I'm more man than a man that won't support his own child. But I can't instill in him the seeds of knowledge that come from a man. Even though I do everything exactly the way my own daddy did it, I'm still not man enough for what he needs. There is a vicious plague that has infected our communities, and I'm convinced that its statistics are more horrific than AIDS, and it's more debilitating than any addiction. So the only antidote is a clear and present inoculation of manhood into those that would be fathers. It's an injection of fatherhood into those that have walked away from their seeds, and an immunization against such atrocities for the legacy of those who suffer the illnesses of their fathers today.